We're going to keep the baseball talk going here on the program. We're very pleased to welcome in the senior writer for ESPN.com with the baseball coverage. You can also follow him on Twitter.com/JCrasnick. It is Jerry Crasnick. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Good, Matthew. How are you?
Very well. Thanks so much for being with us today. Appreciate your time.
Sure.
Well, Jerry, let's start with some of the big topics going around Major League Baseball right now. And obviously, we saw another win today by the New York Yankees, 3-2 over the Blue Jays. Are you as amazed as everybody else, or seemingly most people, in what they're doing with all of their injuries and all of these sort of understaffed type of situations that's happening down there? I mean, Joe Girardi's got to be up there for Manager of the Year if this keeps up.
Yeah, a month into the season, he's going to be the front runner. You know, it's funny how a Yankees team could go into a season with that expectations that low, but it's really incredible. I guess sometimes you just take guys and put them into that situation. Vernon Wells or Travis Hafner or Lyle Overbay, guys who really haven't done a whole heck of a lot in recent years, and they all of a sudden become different people. It's hard to explain, but you get some of these guys in a place like New York or Boston, and I don't know if it's the tradition or just the attention or whatever it is, rubs off on these guys, and they just become different players.
Elsewhere in the Major League Baseball, what's the storyline right now, obviously very early in the season, that's really surprising you so far in a positive way?
Well, there's some teams. I think a team like the Orioles, is a team that they're last year, people kind of doubted what they were going to be because they won all those one-run games and all those extra inning games and kind of said, hey, is this team for real? And kind of looks like they are for real. Really good lineup. They're getting some good pitching. Buck Showalter has pretty firm control over things there. So, they're a positive surprise. I think the Rockies obviously have been a pleasant surprise. Kansas City, is playing well. So some of those middle market teams that don't have the huge payrolls are out of the gate pretty quickly. And, we never know whether they're going to be able to keep it up. The Pirates are another team that's playing well lately, and, they've done it the last couple of years, and sometimes the lack of depth and some of these things catch up to clubs like that. But, right now they're crafting pretty positive storylines.
Chatting with Jerry Crasnick of ESPN here on TSN 690. He mentioned the Orioles. Orioles are currently leading 6-4 right now in Oakland in the seventh inning, and Oakland is batting there. Elsewhere in baseball, Jerry, what do you make of what's happening in Miami? Obviously here in Montreal, we're no stranger to the ownership situation happening down there, and what we think of, or what the fans at least in this city think of what's happening with the Marlins. Has it in any way impacted some of the pundits and media people's outlook on what happened in Montreal now that it's sort of happening in another market in a certain extent?
Has it what with Montreal?
Has it sort of impacted how people view what happened in Montreal now that they see something happening like that down in Miami?
Yeah, Jeff Luria, doesn't have the greatest reputation in the world, and as time goes by, it seems to get worse. I've always was a fan of baseball in Montreal. I thought it was a good baseball city, and but it's tough up there when they had an old ballpark and some ownership issues and a lot of things that do have an impact on fan turnout and that sort of thing. And I still think if you put a good ballpark in Montreal, I'd be surprised if they wouldn't get better support than they would in a place like Miami, where they seem pretty much ambivalent to baseball. And, other than spring training, they don't get real excited about anything. And, I'm still one of those people, I think a lot of us believe that, if it wasn't for the shutdown in 1994 with the great team they had they gone to a World Series, with all those guys they had, the Larry Walkers and the Shields and Moises Alou, and, those were amazing teams. And if they had been able to sort of see it through, you never know what kind of positive buzz they would have gotten and what kind of lift. I mean, we saw it in Seattle and some other cities where you thought baseball might move because they didn't get the support. And, you get one good playoff run, you get to a postseason, you do some good things, and it can make a major difference in the life and the history of a franchise.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for this market, certainly, that the wild card didn't come in a little earlier, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those places where you look back and, I don't know if the pitching was that great, but, man, they had some amazing lineups. And I think they were good enough, those Felipe Alou teams, to make some noise in October. And, it's just sort of unfortunate. I don't think Miami's a great market for baseball. I was down there for the WBC, and, I just, it doesn't seem to be a passion down there, I guess, for people. And, obviously Jeff Loria, with what he's done, has sort of taken some more luster off it just by the way, they use public financing to get a new ballpark, and then, got all these guys that they brought in and then traded away. It's really not the way to maintain continuity or interest in a franchise.
I had a chance a couple of years ago to spend some time with Pedro Martinez and a couple of other former Expos for an event, and I was chatting with his manager at the time, who also is from the Dominican Republic, and we were talking about the Miami situation as they were obviously building their ballpark, and he said nobody's going to go there because it's just too hot to watch a game. And this is coming from a guy from the Dominican. So I thought that was kind of a funny assessment of baseball in Miami. But your thoughts on the market of Tampa Bay as well, as they struggle with attendance. And we saw earlier in the year Bud Selig calling them out in respect to that.
Well, Tampa's a little bit of a different story. I think when you look at Stu Sternberg and Matt Silverman and Andrew Friedman and the group, Joe Madden, they've done some amazing things with, not a whole lot of resources and a pretty lousy stadium. So, yeah, you can blame people for not going out to the games. I mean, sometimes it's probably an oversimplification. I don't think that park is in a very good location, near Tampa Bay. It's sort of a haul out there. And, I'm sure they would love to have a new ballpark to put them on, more of a solid footing with other teams. As it is, though, they compete pretty well year in and year out. I think the people who run that franchise have a lot to be proud of. I mean, that's a different situation. The Marlins have a new ballpark, and did some things that, I think a lot of people in baseball looked at as kind of shameless. To just shed all those guys off after you built the enthusiasm to get a ballpark constructed. With the Rays, it's a little bit different. They're sort of doing it on a shoestring, and they've done it in a smart way and been able to compete in the American League East, but they just don't get the fan support.
In New York, we mentioned the Yankees already as a team that's doing pretty well right now. They're 15-9 and in second place right now in that division. But I've always been curious about one of their coaches right now, a guy who had a quick stint as a manager, a guy who obviously was a longtime player in major leagues as a catcher, which certainly seems to lead to managerial jobs all over. Why is it that Tony Pena, the bench coach there, is not a manager right now in Major League Baseball? We saw him have, I think, KC's only winning season in the last 20 years when he was there.
Yeah, sometimes it's strange. It's really difficult to know why guys don't get jobs. I think Tony Pena's a guy who sometimes guys fall out of fashion, then they come back into fashion. So all it really takes is one place, the right place, and it hasn't happened for him, since Kansas City, I believe. But I wouldn't write him off yet as a manager. I think the guy does have a lot of the skills you need. And he did manage in the WBC this year, so, that might help him, I think, back in baseball's good graces. I think he managed the Dominican, right?
Yep.
To the title.
That's
so
right.
Think that would help? You think that would help him some? And I don't think his last shot has passed. I could see him getting some more interviews and certainly getting another job.
He is Jerry Crasnick. You can see his work on ESPN.com. You can also check him out on Twitter.com/J Crasnick. He's getting close to 100,000 followers, so go ahead and follow him there on Twitter. Thanks so much, Jerry. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Matthew.